So we've done metals reacting with acids, we've done metals reacting with oxygen, and the third type of reaction with metals is going to be metals reacting with water. So a new page in your book, give yourself the title Metals and Water. Now, obviously, like with acids and like with oxygen, some metals react with water, some metals do not react with water. So again, if you look around the room that you're in, maybe there's a radiator on the wall. Now, you wouldn't want that radiator to react with water. That wouldn't be very good. All right, so that's going to be made out of a metal that doesn't react with water. However, there are a lot of metals that do react with water. Now, you're not going to be used to seeing these in your day-to-day life because they react with water. Okay. Now, the metals that do react with water in general are the metals in group 1 and group 2 of the periodic table. So, if you look at this periodic table here, okay, we've got things like, over here we've got carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, all the things that are in the atmosphere, okay, with some helium as well. And the metals that you'll be used to are things like iron, copper, zinc. Down here we've got silver and gold. All right. So the metals that are here in the periodic table, these aren't reactive. Okay, so we can use these to make things like radiators, and we can use these in construction. Now, if we go over to the very left-hand side of the periodic table, we've got metals like lithium, sodium, potassium. Now, these are reactive metals. Okay, so these are in, we call this here, this one, it's called group 1. All right, so all of these here, all of these are in group 1. Hydrogen's a special case, so don't worry about hydrogen for the moment, it's not a metal. All right, but it goes there for a special reason. But lithium, sodium, potassium, those are metals. And this is group 2. And we've got beryllium, magnesium, that we've seen a few examples of, and calcium. Yes, so the calcium that you get from your milk, for your teeth and your bones, that's a metal. Okay, so these metals, these are reactive when we put them in water. All right, so we're going to learn about the reactions of these with water today. So, if we do the reaction of potassium and water, we get something called potassium hydroxide. And we get hydrogen gas as well. Okay, and as always, if we were to write these out as simple equations, well, potassium is a metal, so that's going to be solid potassium, and water is a liquid, so it's an L for liquid, and then potassium hydroxide has the formula KOH. KOH. So we've got one atom of potassium, one atom of oxygen, and one atom of hydrogen. Okay, now that is going to be dissolved in the water. So it reacts to make this, and then this dissolves in the water. And if something is dissolved in water, remember it's AQ. Okay, if you don't remember that, you can make a little note of it over here. So AQ equals aqueous solution. An aqueous solution just means dissolved in water. Okay, so if you go to your cupboard, take out some salt. Okay, salt is sodium chloride. You can dissolve that in some water, and there you've got an aqueous solution of sodium chloride. Anyway, back to the equation. So hydrogen is H2. That's our gas. Okay, and if we look at this equation, is it balanced? Yes, it is. So we've got one potassium, two hydrogens, oh no, it's not balanced. So we need to balance it. So pause the video now, have a go at balancing it. Okay, so you should have got that you would need to have, in order to get more hydrogens, you would have to have a 2 there, but now I've got 2 oxygens, so I need to have a 2 in front of there, and I've got 2 potassiums, so I need to have a 2 in front of there. So I've got 2 potassiums, 4 hydrogens now, because each water has got 2, and I've got 2 waters. So I've got 2 hydrogens plus 2 hydrogens, that's 4 hydrogens, and 2 oxygens, 2 oxygens. So now that is balanced. Right. So one thing you do need to know is that this thing here, potassium hydroxide, that is an alkali. Okay, which you'll remember from when you learned about acids and alkalis last year. So, if we were to go to the periodic table again, group 1 has got a special name. Okay, and the special name for group 1 is Alkali Metals. Why are they called alkali metals? Well, because they're all metals, but when we react them with water, they make alkaline solutions. Okay, so I could add an indicator to this solution, and it would show me that it is an alkaline solution. Okay, good. All right, so let's do another one. Let's do magnesium with water. Okay, so again, it's going to be magnesium plus water. Now remember from last lesson when we talked about the difference in the, so we had magnesium oxide was MgO and sodium oxide was Na2O. All right, so the same thing happens with these hydroxides. So I am going to make magnesium hydroxide. However, the formula for magnesium hydroxide is MgOH2. Now what does that mean? Well, what that means is I've got 1 Mg, and then in here, everything in the brackets there's 2 of. Everything in the brackets there's 2 of. So it's 2 O and 2 H. All right, so really what I've got here is Mg O O H H. Okay, and I still get my hydrogen gas. Okay, I still get my hydrogen gas. Okay, so you can now have a go at balancing that equation. Okay, so you should have got, if we do it all out, that's my hydrogen. I've already got my magnesium hydroxide. My water is going to be HHO. And I've got my magnesium. So if I look, magnesium 1, that's good. Hydrogen 1, 2. Over here 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so I need 2 more hydrogens, which I can get by adding 1 more water. Okay, so now hydrogens 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, that's good. And then I check my oxygens 1, 2, and 1, 2. Okay, so we're balanced. So I've got 1 of these, leave that like that. I've got 2 of these, so I just put a 2 in front of there. And I've got 1 of these and 1 of these. So that's my balanced equation. Okay. So, just as with metals and acids and metals and oxygen, these reactions are all different reactivities depending on the metal. So some metals like potassium reacts really, really strongly with water. So if you do this reaction, what actually happens is that the potassium catches on fire and starts fizzing and moving around on the surface of the water. Whereas magnesium, that's quite a slow reaction. You probably wouldn't see very much happening. All right. So all of these reactions are all, how much they react depends on which metal you use. Okay. So what that means is we can have a reactivity series. A reactivity series, all right, where we can put at the top the most reactive elements, the most reactive metals, and at the bottom we can put the least reactive. Okay, and right down at the bottom are going to be things like gold and things like iron. Okay, so things you make jewelry out of, things you use to make buildings. Okay, but then as you move up, you're going to get more reactive metals like magnesium. Remember, gold won't burn in air, whereas magnesium will burn in air. And the most reactive ones up here, you're going to have things like potassium. Okay, which if you put your gold jewelry in water, nothing will happen. If your jewelry was made of potassium, the moisture in your skin would react with the metal, and it would give you a burn. Okay, so you should also, if you're very observant, you'll notice that potassium is in group 1 and magnesium is in group 2. Okay, and then iron and gold are over here in this section here, which is called the transition metals. Okay, so all of these from here all the way over to here, we call these the transition metals. So we could also add an extra piece of information that the most reactive metals are those in group 1, and then we go down to group 2, and then we go down to the transition metals. Okay, and the final thing you need to know is that sometimes we use the greater than or less than symbol to talk about reactivity. So we might say that in terms of reactivity, potassium is more reactive than gold. Okay, where this here we can use to say more reactive. All right, so finally, the only thing you need to do is, of course, to make yourself another flashcard. So the one you made last time was metal and oxygen. So you've already got metal and acid. So you should already have one from metal plus acid. The last time you had metal and oxygen, this time you need to make metal plus water. Okay, so if I have a look at this, all right, metal oxide. All right, maybe I should number these. So we have 1, 2, 3. So metal and acid, number 1 is going to give me, if I remember correctly, salt plus water. Metal oxide comes from metal and oxygen, and metal and water is going to give me a alkali or a hydroxide plus hydrogen. Okay, and we're done.